So this is a breakthrough in a lot of different ways, and it will help not only ourselves but everyone in the industry to better treat their patients and give them more specific treatments for them.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. Joining me in the studio today is Tim McCarthy. He's the CEO of ImmuPharma, the AIM-listed biopharmaceutical company. Tim, great to see you again and have you in the studio at the same time.
Yeah, Stephen, it's been a little while, hasn't it, since we spoke last?
Well, that's right. It has been a while. I think last March we spoke. And by the look of things, reading through your recent announcements, it's been a very, very busy and positive period for the company. So you've had announcements out on your P140 platform, and that encompasses your lead drug program, Lupus, and also another key late-stage asset, CIDP, as well as other potentially key autoimmune diseases, and still January.
Yes. Well, we certainly hit the ground running in the new year. And so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to pop into the studio and just update you and your listeners on what we've done so far this year and what we hope to be doing in the year ahead. And I'd like to maybe concentrate on 3 or 4 areas. So one, to put a little bit more meat around the bones of the announcement we put out in the first full week of January on the preclinical work that we've been doing the back end of last year, which is really quite important, very groundbreaking. Groundbreaking in the sense of the whole area of autoimmune disease, not just P140 on its own. Secondly, give you a heads up or some feedback from the conferences that we went to last week in San Francisco. That's the JP Morgan conference and the Biotech showcase. Thirdly, an update again on where we are with the business development activities, because that's going to be a very important focus for us this year. And also just maybe summarize with where we see the year going and what our shareholders can expect to see, and any potential new investors who are looking at opportunities in this sector for ImmuPharma.
Well, let's start with that P140 announcement. Tim, could you tell us more about that?
Yes. It probably came from left field from a lot of people, because we didn't advertise the fact that in the second half of last year we were doing some preclinical work, which has turned out to be quite groundbreaking in some of the findings and data that we produced from that. And what we were looking to do with that preclinical research was to try and understand autoimmune disease more clearly, why a patient gets an autoimmune disease and how it develops, and how we can understand it, a little bit better than frankly we all understand it now. And this is why it's so important to us. But of course, it was linked very much to P140. And just to remind your viewers, P140 is the platform, the autoimmune platform, which we have, of which the lead asset development, and that, as you said earlier, was Lupus. We have some other programs come behind it. And our hypothesis on P140 is that it is able to treat all autoimmune diseases. It's not specific to one. And the reason for that is the way that it works on the immune system. And so what we wanted to do was run this preclinical work at a very highly regarded research unit in the United States that are used to doing this type of work. And what it gave us was insights into generally how autoimmune disease works. Now, I'm saying that in the general sense, not just what P140, but our specific interest is obviously in P140. And so what the headline results of what we got from that, it's using this work and these findings, we should be in a position where we can identify and categorize autoimmune diseases, i.e. diagnose them in the way that we haven't been able to before. Secondly, we can see whether or not specifically P140 has any relevance to that autoimmune disease, which we believe it does across the board. And we can monitor also going forward how patients react to P140 therapy. So very important findings, both for the autoimmune sector as a whole, but specifically for us in P140 and how we take it forward.
Tim, from a scientific perspective, how important are these findings?
Well, they're very important. and as I've just alluded to, it's not just P140, which is obviously our specific interest, but across the whole sphere of autoimmune disease. And to try and put that in context, Stephen, at the moment, it's very difficult for doctors and physicians and specialists to actually identify and diagnose an autoimmune disease for a patient. So very often what happens is a patient will be feeling unwell, they'll consult their doctor or in some cases a specialist, and it's very subjective. The physician will talk to the patient and they'll try and understand how they're feeling. They might run a few tests, but there is no definitive diagnostic tool at the moment to identify autoimmune diseases and specifically what type of autoimmune disease a person may have. So this is a breakthrough in a lot of different ways, and it will help not only ourselves but everyone in the industry to better treat their patients and give them more specific treatments for them. So we're actually also talking now about personalised medicine. So if we can use the findings which we have put out earlier this year to help physicians generally to identify for their patients that, one, they do have an autoimmune disease, what the level of severity it is, and how they best might be treated, then you're coming into this whole area of personalised medicines, which means that the patient will get better treatment, the doctors, physicians will be able to help them through that, and so it's better for everybody, essentially.
Maybe to take a step back, why did you initiate this work and how important is it for ImmuPharma going forward?
We initiated it for two main reasons. One, as I've already alluded to, we had our own hypothesis, we have had for a long time, about P140 and how it works on the immune system. And essentially, that hypothesis is that it should be applicable to treat all autoimmune diseases without exception. And also the way that P140 works on the immune system and on the patient, it will give the efficacy but without the side effects or adverse events that patients sometimes suffer. And so we needed to generate some data to prove our hypothesis, such that it gave us a lot more confidence in what we were doing going forward. But also, and we'll come on to this in a moment, I'm sure, we're in a very busy period at the moment, talking to lots of potential partners across the whole portfolio, not just P140, but on P140 specifically. There is an awful lot of interest at the moment in the biopharma industry and big pharma companies about the whole area of autoimmune. It's a bit of a hot topic, frankly, and they're looking for evidence, they're looking for data. When, for example, we're speaking to them about potentially partnering opportunities, and they're looking for the proof, in inverted commas, if I can put it that way, Stephen, that our hypothesis, does work. So, two major reasons. One, we needed to be able to demonstrate to other people our hypothesis is good and sound. And secondly, knowing all the activity we've got going on at the moment and coming through this year, we need to be able to sit in front of potential partners and say, look, we've got the data that we can prove to you that the hypothesis works. And that's really important because we are actually presenting something quite unique here in P140. It hasn't been seen in the industry before. And so if you put that together with the fact that we can now demonstrate that we can develop a diagnostic tool, which will be the first in the industry in autoimmune. And secondly, we've got the therapy, which can be used by doctors and physicians in order to follow through on that once they've identified the disease. That's very, very powerful. And it's not something that exists at the moment in the industry. So lots of reasons, a number of reasons why we did it. But it's proving to be extremely useful, let me put it that way, in our discussions with pharma companies.
Tim, you mentioned the JP Morgan and Biotech showcase that you attended in San Francisco last week. Could you tell us a little bit more about the event?
Yeah, these are parallel events that happen in San Francisco this time of year. It's been through tradition, certainly for the JP Morgan conference for, crikey, I've lost count how many years now. And it's the premier event of the year in the pharma industry, where all the big companies, medium-sized companies, small companies like ourselves get together. It's a great opportunity to meet people in one place. You get an awful lot done in a week. It's a bit busy, to be honest, but it's a great opportunity, and especially for us in the stage we're at. It gives us the opportunity to pick up and continue those discussions, which we're already having and have been for a little while now, with the pharma companies. And actually, the timing of the release, the RNS that we just talked about, was very good for us, because we were able to put it out there, and then we were able to talk about that to the pharma companies that we met last week. And that's helped to cement, some of the conversations we've been having, and actually push them along, one step further, frankly. Yeah.
It looks like 2025 is gearing up to be a busy year for ImmuPharma. Tim, what are the key takeaways for your current shareholders and also potential new investors who might be watching this interview?
I think what I would say is that, a lot of the viewers looking at this today, and obviously all our shareholders, will know the history of the company. And we've had the last 2 to 3 years where we've changed the company around completely. We've focused it. We're a lot more efficient in so many ways. But more importantly, what we've been doing, what the team has been doing, and I have to give testament to them, because it's their hard work and their effort and their innovation, and that's the most important thing in our business, the innovation, to bring all the programs forward, and the main one being P140, and giving rise to the results that we put out a couple of weeks ago. And it's down to them that we're where we are now, right on the cusp of what I would say at a point where we will start to deliver what everybody wants of us in ImmuPharma this year. And that's important, because we put the hard effort in over the last couple of years. We have made great strides forward, but I know everyone's impatient for us to move forward on a broad range of things. And that is very much the objective of this year. We've got a lot of conversations going right across the portfolio, P140 obviously, but a lot of the other areas in the portfolio, which frankly didn't exist a couple of years ago. And that's part of the transformation that we've put into ImmuPharma in the last couple of years. So this is the year for delivery, is the message that I would send. I know the conversations we've got going on. They're at various levels and at various stages of conversation. I expect to be delivering a number of deals through this year with the team, certainly on P140, and maybe also a few surprises for people, because there's little gems in our portfolio that we don't talk about that much. But again, for various reasons, they're gaining quite a lot of attention and traction with conversations we're having. So it's going to be, if I can use the phrase, a transformational year for ImmuPharma this year. All the effort of what we've done over the last 2 or 3 years is going to come to fruition. And we've started the year very positively in all sorts of ways. And I think shareholders, and certainly any potential new investors listening to this, should expect a lot more.
Well, I hope you'll keep us updated on any progress across the portfolio, as well as those little surprises. Tim, thank you so much for coming through today.
It's a pleasure, Stephen. Good to see you again.
And you. That's Tim McCarthy, the CEO of ImmuPharma.